What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Jake Fletcher Show. Happy to be presenting to you guys a episode today with a fantastically amazing entrepreneur right here in Miami. Mike Ortiz is the founder and CEO of Miami's own JoJo Tea, located in the Upper East Side MIMO district and serving tea worldwide, ladies and gentlemen. Their philosophy is as wise as it is simple: heat water, make tea, drink it. The company was founded in 2011 after Mike visited a Buddhist temple in Coconut Grove to learn about meditation. And while there, he inadvertently began a lifelong journey into the universe of tea after drinking a particularly delicious cup of tea called the Oriental Beauty that was brewed by the teacher. He later went on to win. He was the winner of America's first Tea Masters Cup in 2019. They now work with food and beverage outlets to custom curate their tea offerings, train staff, and help those businesses improve their bottom line by multiplying the volume of their tea sales. Mike, how are you?
I could not be better. I feel like I need to record your introduction of me, and I need to play it on repeat anytime that I feel inadequate at anything in life, because I feel like a king. I want to get some rules. Like, am I allowed to curse? Am I not supposed to curse? I want to get a sense of what's the
You can say whatever the fuck you want, bro. This is my podcast. I make the rules, and therefore
Excellent.
Say whatever you want. So
I heard
yeah.
that. All right, sounds good.
and it will be recorded.
Excellent. So, I'm going to pull into this parking spot so that I can give you my full attention real quick. This looks like a nice, quiet spot.
Perfect.
Right.
So if you're watching the video version of the podcast, you're getting an exclusive VIP inside look of the JoJo to go van. So these guys are big business here in Miami, and they're spreading. It feels like every other restaurant I go to now is like JoJo Tea offered on the menu, and I'm like, hell yeah. And it's been really cool to see you guys grow. I don't, recall the early days, cause I didn't find out about you guys until maybe like 5 or 6 years ago. And then my best friend ended up working with you guys. I visited when you guys had a place in Coral Gables. I used to go there a few times, and anytime I see you guys tea, I make sure to get a cup or
Oh, brother, thank you, man.
as much as I can, 'cause I'm a tea fan. So yeah, it's always good to support, local businesses, but even more so when they're quality businesses. It's a pleasure. So
Jake, thank you, man. I think that the first time that I met you was the 2015 or 2016 Okeechobee Music Festival, and we had like a little tea bar set up backstage of the Moksha tent.
yeah,
The Moksha
that's
stage.
right.
And that was like such a special time for me, man, because I started JoJo Tea in 2011. And at that time I was a yoga instructor. Like you said, I was working at this Buddhist temple. I wanted to learn how to teach meditation. And tea was seen as such an important part of the meditative experience at this Buddhist temple. And I didn't know that there was such a connection between the Buddhist and Taoist conception of meditation and the Buddhist and Taoist practices of tea, but basically I really wanted to focus on being as accomplished of a meditator as I could, getting to the deepest stages of consciousness possible, right? But the tea was this silent friend that was just sitting with me throughout the entirety of it. And what really blew my mind about the way that they did tea at this temple was that usually in America, when we make tea, we take a little teaspoon of tea, we put it in a big pot, we let it sit for 5 minutes, and then we take out the leaves and we drink the water. And that's the tea experience, And there's an experience of tea that they call Gongfu tea, Gongfu, And like that word has a lot of different meanings, but like the root of it, right, is like you think of like martial arts, kung fu, right? What kung fu actually means is the practice and application of any skill that is practiced with attention to detail and the goal of mastery. That's kung fu, you know? So the practice of kung fu tea is, instead of using one little tablespoon of tea and a lot of water and letting it sit for like 5 minutes, you use like 3 tablespoons of tea and you only use like a half a cup of water. And instead of letting it sit for 5 minutes, you let it sit for like a few breaths, and then you strain it. And then you pour it again, and then this time 4 breaths. And then you do it again, and this time 5 breaths. And then you do it again, and this time 6 breaths. So every time the teapot, like the teapot that I use to drink tea at home, is like the size of a golf ball. You know, it's tiny. But I know that when I brew tea out of that pot, I could brew the same tea 30 times, you know? So even though the pot is the size of a golf ball, I can get a liter of tea out of it, you know? And every sip is fresh and hot and freshly brewed, and which maximizes the aromatic output of the tea. It's like so much of kung fu tea is about making the most delicious, most flavorful cup of tea possible. You know, and it's like the fact that it happens to integrate with meditation, then people want to like layer all these different meanings about like offerings to the Buddha and offerings to the spirit realm and all. And it's like, bro, we're just trying to make tasty tea, you know, because when the tea is tasty enough, it makes you want to contemplate the flavors, and the flavors sit on your breath. And what is meditation but the contemplation of the breath? So it's almost like once the tea reaches a certain level, meditation becomes almost like an unintended consequence of the tea drinking experience when it's brewed in this way. You know what I'm saying?
That's deep, man. You know, and I kind of almost draw some parallels to that, and having sort of that level of awareness where you're really living in the moment, you know, because I associate that sort of almost transcendental awareness to like a high level of meditation, you know, and for example, high performing athletes, they train and practice, and they work on their, you know, whatever it is, whatever their sport is, and, you know, break down to the finest details and analyze everything they're doing while they're in practice. But once you're in the performance, once you're in that game, there's no longer any, you know, thoughts behind it in terms of like, all right, here I go, you know, step 1, step 2, it's reflexes. It becomes instinct, right?
And that's where we build the endurance in that flow state, you know. A really quick note that I think that you'll find fascinating is that there are not many things in the world that have been shown to synchronize both hemispheres of the brain, right? I'm obviously not a neuroscientist, so like I'm not saying that that tea is some magic brain medicine, but I've seen studies that there are very few things in the world that can synchronize both hemispheres of the brain. And the only things that I've read of that can do that are meditation, yoga, tea, and high-level musical improvisation. And those are all like extreme examples of like, those are all like flow state activities that the more conceptualization that's happening, the further you're getting from the truth of the execution. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's like if we can use tea brewing as a way to practice flow state, you know, that's like that's what I'm saying. Like so much of like when people ask me like what are the health benefits of tea, I can't be like, well, you get to further embody a flow state which synchronizes both hemispheres of the brain. I got to talk about like antioxidants and amino acids and that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Which luckily tea happens to also have. But
Right.
it's like the real health benefit of tea is the esoteric, is like the ease and the support of the meditation, the caffeine and the L-theanine, you know, the caffeine stimulating and the L-theanine relaxing and helping to focus. You know, those are like the real juice, the real benefit of the tea, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I answered a question or if I just took a 16 left turns, but I apologize.
No, no, don't apologize. I think it's a great way to kind of open up the dialogue. Let's take like maybe half a step back here and
Mhm.
address up front, like in terms of its definition, what is tea? Because I know there's a
Oh, what a
tea
fucking great question.
plant, right?
Yeah. So look, like in my opinion, in order to answer that question, we need to look at like when was the sound tea first used to describe a beverage, right? And it seems that the sound tea started being used to describe a beverage in the 1600s, okay? And in the 1600s, there were British merchants that were introduced by Portuguese merchants to this beverage that the Portuguese had found in East Coast China. Okay. Hey, let me put my phone on do not disturb mode. I just got a text and it's gonna drive me crazy. All right. Sorry
Okay,
about that.
you good?
Hey, there.
I'm gonna take the opportunity to scratch my ear.
Hey, there you go. so so like so the okay, let me take a step back. The Dutch, they go in the 1600s, they make it to East Coast China, right? They notice that the Chinese, they have all this silk, they have a bunch of different foods, and one of the things that they have is this beverage that everybody in China seems to drink, where they would take these leaves, put it in hot water for a little bit, and then drink it, right? Now, the local like dialect of that part of Eastern China that they got to was in Guangdong province, which is where Hong Kong is, right?
Okay.
And that local dialect was calling tea che. So it's like CHE with the upward tone in Chinese. So it's che, right? The Portuguese traders took all that stuff back, and when they got to Europe, and the British really liked this beverage that was like aristocratic Chinese nobility, sexy exotic beverage, you know. The Dutch traders explained. Oh, I said Portuguese. No, it was Dutch traders, not Portuguese. I apologize. So the Dutch traders were like, "This is called te." So they took che and named it te in trying to communicate it to the British.
Okay.
Then the British took te and they called it tea. So what were
Okay.
they describing? They were describing one plant that's called Camellia sinensis. Okay. Camellia sinensis is the plant from which we get white tea, green tea, yellow tea, black tea, oolong tea, pu'er tea, both raw and ripe pu'er tea, and what's called dark tea or fermented tea. That all comes from this one plant. Not to mention tea tree oil, you know, that also comes from this plant, right?
It's a handy plant.
Now, yeah, it's crazy. Now, of course, beyond that, you could take any plant material and put it in hot water for a little bit and then take it out. And they call that tea nowadays, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But in the industry, what we call true tea is Camellia sinensis derived beverages, you know?
Okay.
Yeah. And then what was the last thing I wanted to say about that?
You're talking about
There
the
was a point.
origins.
Yo, yeah. Just that, like, so I said that the local dialect was calling it che, right? They called it che, but they were on, this is in the 1600s in East Coast China. In Western China, in the Yunnan province, which is like between Tibet and Thailand, there's over 6,000 years of documented tea history, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. And starting from there, and in the Mandarin language, tea is called cha, right?
Okay.
So as it went westward into like the Arab Peninsula and into India, it became like chai and sha. But as it went
Ah.
eastward, it became che and then te and then tea. You know,
Wow.
so like
Hmm.
tea, te, che, cha, chai, and sha is all talking about one plant.
Wow. I did not know that. That's like a mind
Yeah.
blown right there.
Like chai latte, you know, chai tea. That's like saying tea. You know.
So does chai come from the camellias
So
forgive me, I'm
chai in Camellia sinensis. right?
Sinensis. Okay.
Yeah. So what's tricky about chai is that when we say chai in America, what we're typically talking about is something that they call in India masala chai.
Mm.
Okay. Because chai means tea. So if you go to India and you just say chai, they'll just give you tea. But then there's something called masala, which is a blend of like cinnamon and ginger and cardamom, and like everybody has their own
Mixture.
iteration of it. Yeah, cinnamon, ginger, cardamoms, fennel, cloves. Those are the common ingredients, you know?
Right.
So like masala chai is a blend of masala with chai. So if you have like a chai latte, that's typically masala chai, you know?
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. So what's the difference between uh and strictly speaking of Camellia I still can't say it.
Sinensis. It's like, think of it like
Sinensis.
this. I'll help you. Yeah. It's like Latin for Chinese. Sino is Latin for Chinese. So sinensis, what they're saying is that it's the
Sinensis.
camellia from China. Sinensis.
Camellia sinensis. Okay. So what's the
Yeah.
difference between strictly speaking of Camellia sinensis? Boom, nailed it.
Yeah.
What's the difference between making tea from the dried versus the fresh leaves? Because I know there's
Well,
different
like the fresh
things that you.
leaves, it's amazingly delicious. Like if you just go on a tea garden and you pluck fresh buds and you just throw it in a bottle of water and you drink it in an hour, it's like mind-blowingly delicious. But it's very unstable, very like not shelf stable. Once you pluck those leaves, you need to put them in water like pretty immediately. You know what I mean? And then once you do that, that water will go bad pretty immediately. You know, like once tea is brewed, you don't want to let it sit for more than like a day.
Right. Okay.
So that all of those like logistical challenges make it so that having fresh tea is like what, or raw tea we should call it. Having raw tea is like only possible for a very limited number of people that like have direct access to tea gardens, you know?
What kind of climate is required to grow the tea tree?
Yeah, like subtropical. If Miami had mountains, we would be growing some of the best tea in the Western Hemisphere here. You know, we're at the same latitude as Taipei, and Taiwan grows like magic tea. You know, it's amazing. But the thing is that like you need sloped soil for the ideal situation,
Mm.
because if the soil is sloped like a mountainside, then the water runs down the mountain, so it'll like naturally just like touch the roots, but it won't like pool up and drown the roots. Where in Miami, since like everything is flat, it just kind of soaks up the water, and then that would drown the roots, you know?
So it's more about the sloping of the ground than the elevation.
It's that's like the drainage of the soil, let's say that, right?
Okay.
But then the elevation, like once you get into the elevation, now we start talking about like it's not a difference of it's a difference of degrees. You know what I'm saying? Not like a difference of category. So what I mean by that is this: there's a region of the world called Assam, India, right? Northeastern India. It's a tea growing region that sits at sea level, but they have like tremendously advanced uh, irrigation systems and soil drainage systems, because it's at
Okay.
sea level, it's flat, you know. But then they have figured out ways to drain their soil so well that actually like 1/3 of the world's black tea comes from Assam.
Huh.
Because since they're so like, what happens is this: the higher the elevation, the less air pressure, therefore the less nutrients and water are in the air, therefore the harder the plant has to struggle to grow, therefore the more nuanced flavor profile you're going to get, and the more nuanced like secondary stuff besides caffeine and L-theanine, you're going to get more juicy other flavors, you know.
Wow.
And like and then to give you a further idea of what I'm saying, like what grows at sea level in 2 weeks can take 6 months to grow at 2,000 meters above sea level.
Oh, wow.
So like you could find an 800-year-old tea tree in Nannuo Mountain in China that looks like a 60-year-old tea tree in India, you know.
Hmm. That's incredible. So
Yeah,
out of the struggle comes some pretty delicious
beauty.
flavors.
Of course, that's like, it's the same thing with wine. It's like the nuance. Like the harder that plant has to struggle to live, the more specific and nuanced that flavor profile is going to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like such a slow process. That's why old tree tea is so highly valued. Like the oldest known tea tree in the world is 3,000 years old, at least 3,000 years old. And the tea from that tree is $200,000 a pound every year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's hard
Tea
to
from like,
imagine.
bro, tea from like an 800-year-old tea tree. You're talking about like $100 a gram, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
That'd be hard to beat by some of the biggest drug kingpins out there.
That's what I'm saying, man. You gotta get the cartels involved.
Yeah, hopefully not. So I need you to
Yeah.
settle a tea dispute that I had. Can
Cool.
you or should you microwave a tea bag in a cup of water?
Never.
Never. Okay, thank you. I
Yeah.
just needed that one
It's
on the
like
record.
it's like this. Here's the deal. Like when once the tea hits the water, you don't want to be introducing more heat, really. Like if you do very gently, like something that you do in gong fu tea is you use these tiny little clay pots, and while the tea is brewing, you pour boiling water along the outside of the clay pot to keep a consistent temperature, right?
Hmm,
But if you're actually heating, like boiling, because when you microwave water, that water is going to boil.
right.
That is going to cook the leaf. It's not going to infuse it. It's going to cook it. And then that is going to leave more of like a vegetable broth character than like a nuanced beverage character. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, doesn't sound appealing now. Yeah.
No, it's really bad. It's like really bad.
Okay.
There's like if you want to be really really specific, you can get away with it with like fermented teas like Tibetan tea. But there's like fucking 3 pounds of Tibetan tea in this hemisphere. So like don't worry about it. You know what I mean?
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
everybody out there, don't put your tea bags in the microwave.
Yeah, if it's like if you have no way to heat your water other than a microwave, I'm not gonna be the person that's gonna say like, oh, then just don't drink tea. Like, no, that's stupid. Fine, you use your
Right.
microwave to heat your water, you know. But then once the water is heated, then take it out of the microwave and use that hot water to brew your tea. You know.
So, what are some of your favorite teas and why?
Ooh,
I'm
wow,
sure
man.
this could be a whole podcast in and of itself, but maybe like the top few or so.
Well, like Oriental Beauty, like is like the always the immediate answer to that question because that tea like and it's strange because it's like it's like not logical, right? The way that I love that tea, like it's that tea changed my life, you know.
It's a
I had
good tea.
tasted and like I've offered it to a bunch of different people, and it's not like there's something magical about this tea that you drink it and it makes you want to dedicate your life to tea. Like it's not like that. You know what I mean? But for me, in the context of my life, like I had tasted a lot of different green teas and Taiwanese oolong teas, and had considered them and tasted them mindfully. And then one day, my teacher made this cup of tea, and I noticed how beautiful the cup was, like the liquor, the brewed tea. It was this like amber orange color that was beautiful. And when I tasted it, like the language that I use to describe the flavor profile is something that I've developed over the past like 10 years. But when I first tasted it, that vocabulary wasn't developed. So like
Wow.
the direct experience for the first time of that flavor profile, it made me like think like automatically like, okay, if this flavor profile exists, I've never tasted it. I've never even heard of it. And I'm somebody that like, I grew up in Miami. I've tasted some delicious shit. I'm familiar with delicious stuff, or at least I thought. I was like, if this thing that is this delicious, that is just leaves and water, that is just good for you and nothing else, that has 6,000 years of cultural legacy, and we have none of it, like the moment that I tasted that tea, I was like, oh, tea. That's it. Like the rest of my life needs to be about tea. I get it. The moment I tasted that tea, because it tasted so good and yet so different than any other tea that I had ever tried, that it was immediately like I understood the possible range of flavors. You know what I mean?
Wow. That's
And the
heavy,
range of
man.
flavors, but the range of flavors are huge in tea. From like light floral white teas that have notes of like gardenias and honeydew melon, to like green teas that are like ricey and buttery, to green teas that are more like lychee and mango, to oxidized oolongs that are like for example, there's a whole category called Phoenix Mountain oolong, that those teas have notes of like lime and lychee and like coconut oil. They're like beautiful, you know. But then there's
Wow.
another whole family of oolong teas called yancha, which means cliff tea, and it comes from Wu Yi Mountain. And those are all like more oxidized, like they pluck the leaves and roll them and bruise them, and then let them sit and get like dark and sticky, and then they roast them over charcoal. So you get like more concentrated fruit and like charcoal rich kind of toasty flavors, you know.
Wow.
Then there's like the entire world of aged teas, you know, like tea from wild tea trees that are over 100 years old, that when they first are plucked, they taste like rice and nuts and like a little bit of figs. And then as years pass and decades pass, they transition into this flavor profile of like aged tobacco and prunes and figs and rose petals, that is like so unique, you know? And it's like the only way to get that flavor is to have old tree tea aged in controlled humidity for decades, you know?
Wow.
So there's so much like so like this is a good place to say that like Oriental Beauty was my favorite tea unquestionably for years, and I drank only Oriental Beauty for years, you know. And I'm only scratching the surface even of what Oriental Beauty is. Like the varietal of the tea bush that's used to make Oriental Beauty is really specific, because it gets attacked by these insects that make the bush produce a sweeter sugar as a defense to the insects. So there's like and then like it, but that only happens between about 800 meters and 1400 meters above sea level in this particular pocket of Taiwan. So there's like all of these qualifying factors that need to happen for a tea to really be an Oriental Beauty, you know. And if it's processed in the same style as Oriental Beauty, but it doesn't meet all those factors, then it's called Bai Hao oolong, which means a white tip oolong, right? So I drank white tip oolong and Oriental Beauty almost exclusively for like the first 5 years that I was studying tea. And then is when I started studying pu'er, because pu'er is old tree tea. And like old tree material tends to taste more funky. And it's hard, it's really hard to find high quality, real old tree material that was aged with the proper humidity. That's really hard to find, because everybody's anxious to sell fake shit, you know? Because if you say this is old tree material from 1995, a lot of people will just tell me how much you want for it. I'll buy it. And they don't know the first thing about tea, but they want it, but it's sexy to buy something aged. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But not all aged tea is equal. So like I studied pu'er for like, pu'er is again old tree tea, because that's the one that ages well. I studied
Right.
pu'er for like 5 years before I ever even like started selling, you know?
Wow.
Because it's the most complex category. Like, and the first pu'ers that I tasted, they all tasted like, I'm not even exaggerating, they tasted like old wet socks, like gym clothes, like rotten, humid, moldy, fucking disgusting, sweaty, funky shit. It was horrible, you know?
I'm sold.
Yeah. I was like, I was like, why do people drink this? Like, I can't believe that people drink this. And I knew that that the prices that it fetches are crazy. So I was like, I must be missing something, you know? So I started like just finding different pu'er vendors and distributors in the US and in China, and just ordering as many samples as I could, and tasting. You know, some days I would taste 30 teas, you know, and just compare. And then like doing that over years started to make it kind of like undeniable. What are the desirable flavors in pour and what are the undesirable flavors in pour? And how can I recognize that? By looking at the leaf, by tasting the tea, by, looking at the wet leaf after I've brewed it,
Okay.
And in that process, pour just like ran away with me. Like now I think that pour is like, it's like the king of teas in a way, because it's the most raw. Like any other category of tea, what you're tasting is the skill of the tea maker. Pour is so unadulterated. It's just like plucked, lightly pan fired, rolled, sun dried. So when you taste pour, what you're tasting is the tree and the soil and the aging. And there's nowhere for undesirable flavors to hide. In oolong tea, you're tasting the rolling and the roasting and the charcoal and the bruising and the oxidation and like all of these different little tricks. But pour is just like when I feel like once you start to really familiarize yourself with the flavor profiles of all of the different categories of tea, when you taste a good pour, you can taste every category in. When I taste a good raw pour, it tastes like oolong tea, it tastes like black tea, it tastes like green tea, it tastes like white tea. I can taste what they all have in common in raw pour.
It's extremely interesting.
Yeah, usually it takes like, people need to drink tea, like black tea and green tea and oolong tea, for like a few years before they get onto pour. But then once they get onto pour, it's like they never go back,
Wow. Sounds like maybe it's an expensive preference.
Well, it depends, it certainly can be, right? But like my goal, I own a tea company, right? So what's my goal? My goal is like, I don't want for the expensive pours that are truly like, they're expensive for a reason. Like those flavor profiles are like transcendental, man. Like they take you away, and I want us to have access to that. So then in the search for the expressions of that I can bring to America at a price point that's palatable, I taste many pours. And then if I find one that I'm like, oh, look, this is a good pour. It's a solid pour. It's not anything out of this world. It's not anything that's like, some fucking magic 500-year-old tree situation, but it's at least in that direction. It's strong enough tea energy that people can feel it. It's strong enough. It's like true enough tea flavor that it will shine a light at the directions that pour can go into. Like we have an introductory pour right now from 2014 from a mountain called Yola, that the trees are below 100 years of age. So it's not a very expensive tea, but it's like if somebody wanted to like experiment with pour, then they could try a tea like that. And a bag of that tea is like $30, $35. But then like if you find that you like it and you want to try higher grade pours, then we have like a pour from 2007 and another one from 1999 that are both like old tree material, Hong Kong, properly humidified storage. That a bag of the 2007 is like $120 and the 1999 is like $150.
And how long does that's just one bag is like one cup, like a tea bag?
No.
Or...
One bag is 60 grams, and that'll give you anywhere from like 12 to like 30 servings, depending on how much tea you use when you brew,
Oh, so that's a decent amount of tea at least for,
Yeah, it's not like, it's much more than like a wine bottle, because like, for example, if you take like 5 grams of tea in a small teapot, you can brew that over and over and over and over and over, and you can get like 2 liters out of it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So the idea behind it is that it's also like, if you buy a bag of tea, each pot can give you like at the very least like 5 pots, and I would even say like it would be a shame to like brew a tea like that, like one of these teas that is like a cultural legacy that and only brew it like twice. That's like a shame. It's like you got to brew it at least like 4 or 5 times, really like listen to the story that tea and that tea maker are trying to tell you.
I love that, man. That's epic. What?
Yeah, I compare it to music a lot. It's like the difference between listening to a single and listening to an album. You know,
Oh,
like you brew the tea over and over and over. You get to know that artist. You know their sound. You know their message. You know what I'm saying.
oh yeah,
Whereas if you listen to a
absolutely.
single, it's like, oh yeah, that's dope. Okay, that's what's up. That's dope. But like you don't really know the
Yeah.
artist. You know.
You don't get as much insight into the artistry that's happening behind the
Yeah,
scenes.
and the
Yeah.
why behind it and the process behind the experience that they want their audience to have. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Where
And
does
the tea
the
makers are like that.
where does the name JoJo Tea come from?
It's a really, it's a, do you really not know this story?
I don't know it.
Okay. It's a really cool story. And I'm really proud of it because it's like, I didn't write it, you know, it's like the universe wrote it. So check it out. Uh, I went to college in New York. And while I was living in New York, my oldest sister had a baby. And while he was learning how to talk, one day they showed him a picture of everybody in the family and they pointed to me and they're like, hey, Andy, who's this? And I was, and the kid, you know, he was not even a year old at the time. My name's Michael, right? They're like, Andy, who's this? And they point to me in the picture and he looks at me and he had like met me like 2 times, you know, I come to Miami for a weekend, and then leave, you know? They point to me in a picture and they go, Andy, who's this? And he goes, JoJo. And my whole family is like, yeah. I don't know why, you know. They just thought it sounded cute. So like Andy decides that I'm JoJo, and then my whole family starts calling me JoJo, right?
That's awesome.
And like 4 years after that, I was like, man, I want to start a tea company, and I don't know what to name it. And I'm thinking about all these like lame, esoteric Chinese names. And then, but then like there was this thing in the background. I was like, JoJo Tea. Like I love the way that sounds, and I love the way it looks because I do like capital J, little O, capital J, little O. Actually, I have a logo right here. There you go, JoJo Tea.
Yeah,
So like
it's an
I love
unforgettable logo.
the way it looks. It's like just so simple, you know,
Yeah,
and it's like not symmetrical, but it's repetitive in a way that's easy to remember, you know.
yeah,
So I was really happy with the idea of naming the company JoJo Tea because it's also like it's a name that my nephew gave me, so I know that I'll fight for it because it's me. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So, dude, so check this out. Like, I decide, all right, I'm gonna name the company JoJo Tea. My sister and I make the logo, and then like 5 months after that, I was having dinner with a friend of mine who's Chinese from the Buddhist temple, and he asked me like, "So, bro, why'd you name it JoJo Tea?" And I was like, "Oh, it's meaningless, man. It's a nickname that my nephew gave me." And he goes, "Oh man, teaching your nephew Chinese so young." And I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Teaching my nephew Chinese? Like, I don't know Chinese. He doesn't have a private tutor. What are you talking about?" And he looks at me like he freaks out a little bit, and I could see his eyes open up, and I'm like, "Yo, what does it mean?" So you know what JoJo means in Mandarin?
Tell me.
Maternal uncle.
Oh wow, that is
Yeah,
crazy. Yo, that is wild, bro.
that yo, I like he told me that I applied for the trademark the next day. I was like, "Whoa, that's it. That's the name
That,
forever."
that's too much, bro. Wow, that is crazy.
Crazy.
So
And now
how old
he's
is he now?
14. He's 14.
14. Okay.
And he's a
And
smartass. He's like, I practically own your company, you know? I practically made it's practically my thing.
what's his equity share?
You know what? You want to hear something wild? He started a business on Instagram. It's called Miami Sneaker Supply. He buys used sneakers and new sneakers and flips them, buys used sneakers, refurbishes them, and flips them. He's been doing this for like 6 months. He's already profited $10,000.
Hell yeah. That's dope.
This kid is 14 years old, bro. Like he should be teaching me about business.
Well, he's got a knack for naming businesses, that's for sure.
Bro,
Since day one.
it's crazy. He kills it. You know, I'm so proud of him. It's ridiculous.
That's epic, man.
Yeah.
So do either of you speak Chinese nowadays?
Bro, I'm working on it.
Your
It's like,
accent sounds good to at least to my, white ears,
honestly,
American ears.
I've just been making up sounds every time I say something. No, I'm just
Okay.
kidding.
Oh, okay. It's
I'm kidding. I'm
convincing,
kidding. No, dude, honestly, like I studied acting in college. So
Okay.
we did speech exercises every day. So what that means is that my pronunciation in Chinese is spot on, but my vocabulary is so limited.
Mm.
So I know just enough Chinese to say I really don't know Chinese well. But then my pronunciation is so well that people are like, no, it's really good. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're saying. I literally know like the names of teas and the regions where they come from, and like very little else. That's it. But it's
Yeah,
very challenging.
I can relate to that because that's kind of how I am with Spanish. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty much fluent in Spanish, but I was a vocalist. I was a classical voice principal at UM, and so I've
Wow.
sung all kinds of languages. I've even sung in Chinese, and so of course Spanish being one of those languages. And when you sing a bunch of languages and you learn a bunch of languages like that, like you said, you sort of develop this knack for pronouncing stuff correctly.
Right.
And so I always tell people in Spanish, like basically my accent is better than my vocabulary,
Yeah.
and people will hear me say like a few things in Spanish and then they look at me and they're like, are you Latino?
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
Yeah. But you know what
But
helps you is that you're immersed in Latin culture in Miami and
exactly.
in South Florida. It's
Miami
like
is 100%.
there's like 18 Asians in Miami.
And they're all
You
at
know,
University of Miami too. Yeah.
they used to be. You know that like when the coronavirus started getting bad and Trump continued with all of his anti-China rhetoric, you know that Chinese student visas uh were reduced by 99%.
No, I didn't know that. Wow.
You're going to start seeing a lot less Chinese people at universities and in the US in general, man. It's bad. It's very bad.
Wow. Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
good. Because I remember when I was at UM, like my freshman year, there was like maybe 1% of the student body were, Asian, like exchange students.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
by my senior year, it was like 15-20%, and I thought that was pretty interesting. I mean,
It seems like they're about
University of
to get
Miami.
kind of crushed. Also, all of the different like real estate developers. This is your industry. All the different real estate developers by like, bro, like Chinese students used to come in and snatch up really nice apartments, like in the Thesis Hotel area and like in downtown Dayland area, and like I work closely with the Chinese community, so I see the back end of like, oh, hey, next year Chinese student visas are down 99%. I feel like it's gonna impact the real estate around quite a bit.
I could see that. Yeah. It makes me wonder who are the 1%, like are those like the really wealthy families? I
Or
don't
just the
know.
ones that for some reason still dig America, even after
Yeah, I guess
America
so.
was like, fuck you,
Trashing
Chinese
them.
people.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. It's such a shame. I
So,
mean, like, because like the people of China, like, it's funny when I go to China and Taiwan and shit. If I say like, especially like during Obama, I say I'm from America, everything is cool. During Trump, you say you're from America, people are like, oh. You have to say like, I'm from Miami, and then people are like,
yeah.
wow, Dwayne Wade,
Oh,
dope.
Miami. Yeah.
Miami's the shit.
Miami
You say
has a
you're
good
from
reputation no matter what. Yeah.
bro. You know how you say Miami in Chinese?
No.
Miami.
Miami.
I love it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
You can't say it
So,
like because America is 美国. So like I am American. You say 我是美国人. 我 is me. 是 is. 美国 is America. 美国人 ren means person. So if I say 我是美国人, means like I'm an American person. Everyone's like, oh. If I say like 我是迈阿密人, That means like I'm a Miami person. It's like, oh, cool, cool. You know, they love
Nice.
it.
That's epic. Well, I'm glad to know that you know, the dopeness of Miami extends over to China. So
Bro, it transcends, man. It transcends. Miami is the more city, honestly, the more cities I visit of the world, the more I love that first pastelito de guayaba at the airport of Miami when I get back, man.
yes.
Miami is so
Same, bro.
fucking unique, man. There's no
I
city in the
agree.
world like Miami, man.
I
It's
agree,
like the
man.
Caribbean and America, and you know,
It's
yeah, it's like the
heaven.
Caribbean. It's all the best parts of the Caribbean and all the best parts of America in one. You know,
Yeah.
of course, like we deal with some of the shitty parts of America, and we deal with some of the shitty parts of the Caribbean. You know, like for example, deregulation so intense that a building can fucking fall on a Wednesday night. You know, that's like
Yeah.
some shit that only happens in the Caribbean. That doesn't happen in America. I feel like
Right. Or in like the
that's
Middle
some
East or something. Yeah.
bro, like that, like that's some fucking like
Yeah.
horrible deregulation. You know,
Yeah. I
but
mean, we'll see, you know, we still don't know the exact cause of that, you know, and
well, I've
there's a lot
heard
of
I've heard that like the engineers recommended some structural repairs, but that
right.
the structural repairs would have been $25,000 per unit. So then
Right.
the homeowners association appealed it to the city, and then the city came in and they checked it, and then they said no, it's not necessary. You don't need to do this repair.
Yeah. I mean, the
I mean,
it
that's what I've heard, and then there's so
yeah.
much disinformation with anything like this that who the hell knows. But
Right. Well,
I can't imagine how a building can collapse on a Wednesday night and it not have anything to do with a horrible oversight that has
yeah.
been repeated over decades. You know,
At the very least, yeah. It should have been caught somewhere along the way. Absolutely.
uh,
So do you feel like um do you feel like having a physical location, the tasting room, is essential to your business model, and how
yes,
so?
yeah. So like it absolutely is, because the thing that makes my business, I mean, everybody says that their business is different. You know, like everybody believes that their business is this one jewel that's different from everything else. And I'm one of those idiots that believes that. So what I think makes my business different is that like it's a cultural food with a legacy and a cultural lineage, except that there's education and techniques needed in order to extract that lineage. Like
Mm,
the only technique that you need to access the lineage of the winemaker is to open the bottle of wine and to pour it into a glass.
easy. Yeah.
And then you can taste all of the cultural legacy of that wine and all of the health of the soil, you know? With tea, like you need somebody like, okay, like the getting the water to the right temperature, getting the right tea to water ratio, choosing the right ceramics to express the flavor profile of that tea, steeping it for the right amount of time, and then pouring it and offering it to a guest, instructing them on how to aerate the tea and properly coat your tongue so you get the maximum expression of the aromatics and the flavor of the tea. Like without all of those details, giving somebody the best tea in the world would be a waste. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, it's not just open and pour. It's a
Yeah.
lot more that goes into it.
So therefore, our tasting room only has 4 seats, and it's not open to the public unless they make a reservation. You know, it's only by appointment, by reservation, where I know for sure that if you and I are trying to understand the difference between a fresh green tea from old trees or from young clones, and then some dude walks in and wants a sandwich and to know what the Wi-Fi password is, and he's interrupting me trying to explain to you
Yeah.
like this, the difference between this tea that could literally inform every day of tea drinking for the rest of your life, your moment of peace. I'm trying to like help you craft that moment of peace. Like, fuck the Wi-Fi password, fuck the sandwiches. That's you understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, 100%.
That's why the tasting room component is so important, because like the intentionality behind the product is not just like a beverage, and we can't communicate that unless there's a space that is made specifically. So we have access to all the teas, we have access to any ceramic that we want. It's decorated in a way that we have some flowers, some nature to bring us back to where the tea comes from. There's the appropriate music, the appropriate incense, the appropriate lighting, all to kind of like get us one step closer to what it would be like to have tea, at the region of origin. It's like without all of that, the experience of tea is like it needs a context. We don't have a tea drinking culture in America. So like if you don't have the practice of drinking tea, you don't know why people drink tea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not just explaining what tea is, but I also need to explain to people like that it's going to stimulate you, but it's also going to relax you at the same time, that it's going to help you break up fat and digest food, that that it's going to be packed with antioxidants, so it's going to make sure you don't get colds and fevers. But then most importantly, it's going to be really delicious, and the kind of thing that if you do it every day, you're going to notice that every day you feel a little bit better, because you're getting antioxidants, you're getting caffeine and L-theanine, you're having a moment of peace, you're investing time into contemplation, you're connecting with your breath. It's like all of that. It's so much easier to drink tea and brew tea than it is to meditate and do yoga, and in a crazy way, they have very similar results,
Yeah.
So there needs to be a certain degree of intimacy and intentionality and privacy to really explore that. Because not only that, but then like people aren't used to that. So some people, they come into the tea room, they drink 2 cups of tea, and then all of a sudden they want to talk to me about their relationship with their dad. And it's like, oh, okay, now we're talking about this. And like, I can't be like, yo, look, I just want to talk about the tea, People get into people sometimes get into more vulnerable conversations, So it's like, I don't want somebody to all of a sudden feel like they're in a vulnerable spot, but the guy behind them wants a matcha donut and he's anxious and impatient, like, it's like, that's not going to work. That's not the tea house vibe. The tea house vibe is like, you can feel like the most important thing about the tea house is that it needs to feel like you can leave after a cup, or you can leave after 6 hours, It can't feel like, you can't feel rushed, and you can't feel like there's nothing going on there at the same time. There needs to be like a gentle movement, subtle movement in the same rhythm as nature,
Yeah, that's really interesting, that how you phrased that. What are some of the challenges of running a brick and mortar tea business in general, and also over the last like year and a half of the Armageddon?
Yeah. Well, like, I mean, the original intention of the company was to share moments of peace through tea directly, but it became pretty clear that like that's not a sustainable business model. You know what I mean? Like selling tea to friends of mine, like in between joints. This is like when I first started the company, I didn't even know what an invoice was. I would sell tea in Ziploc bags. It was crazy. Like I had no idea what the hell I was doing.
I love it.
But then this French bakery found out that I was selling tea, and they were like, "Hey, can we taste your tea?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I went and took it to them and brewed it, and they were like, "This is amazing. We want to sell your tea." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I didn't really think about that. Like they're like, "Oh, well, just make us an invoice." And I was like, "Yeah, no problem." And then I like go home and I'm like on Google, like, what the fuck is an invoice? Like,
That's awesome, man.
I swear to God, it was this clumsy. The lady was like, how much is this tea? And I was like, listen, I'm a yoga instructor. I don't know anything about business. You've been in the restaurant industry a lot longer than I have. You're my first account. So look, this is how much I paid for it. You tell me what's fair.
Nice. That's a nice deal.
Bro, tell me where you're going to get that transparency anywhere else,
Yeah.
I was like, look, this is how much I paid for the thing. Like, you tell me. I have no idea what I'm doing, And then when I did that, then I got an account, and I treated that account like if it was the only client that we have, so that I could understand what do they need, how do they want to execute iced tea? How do they want to execute hot tea? How frequently are they ordering? What's the most popular item? How much stock do I need to have on hand to make sure that if they get into any emergency, I can hit them with a delivery that day or the next day? And I did that for like a couple months just with that one account before I even targeted another account. So like, but at that point it became clear that I could increase the quality of the tea in the cup on tables all around Miami. I can increase the quality by an order of magnitude. You know what I mean? Because the difference between a JoJo tea bag and the rest of what you see on the market in a typical restaurant is obvious. Like, it speaks for itself. When you see the JoJo tea bag, like, you don't need me to explain anything. You look at the whole leaf tea in there, and it's obvious that it's a different level than what's on the market, you know?
Yeah.
So it became clear to me that, like, this is a way that I can get in front of a bunch of eyes. A bunch of eyes can see the logo. A bunch of eyes can understand the difference in quality between what I'm trying to introduce. And then I kind of said, like, all right, for this term, I'm not going to focus on selling tea directly to people. I'm just going to focus on working with the best restaurants. Like, I want for the best chefs in the city to know what tea is. Because if the best chefs in the city know what tea is, then the difference between the quality of JoJo and everything else will be undeniable. So basically, I spent from 2011, November 28th of 2011 was when we incorporated. I spent from then until COVID focused exclusively on trying to get in front of the best coffee roasters, the best chefs, the best bartenders, the best bakers, and have them all understand tea just a little bit. And then once they all understood tea just a little bit, then JoJo Tea became all of their choice. Like, all of their, like, no, you can't even, there's no comparison. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's like getting into a Rolls Royce versus like a 94 Corolla with cloth seats, you know,
versus a skateboard versus a skateboard. It's an order of magnitude, you know, it's a different thing. You know, we're talking about like whole leaf organic teas sometimes from tea trees that are hundreds of years old. You know what I mean? The trash, like, as a tea lover, the fucking trash that people drink and that they think that they're investing in themselves and having this moment of peace, and they're plucking something that straight up was plucked by slaves from dead soil. You know what I mean? It's trash. It's like, it's miserable that, like, that this beverage that can represent such purity is also like such a commodified. You have to remember, like, the whole British and Indian and Sri Lankan tea industries were set up by fucking slave masters. Right. And their price models and their price margins and their pricing structures were set up during that time. So that today, 75% of Sri Lankan tea gardens are operating at a loss because Lipton won't buy their tea for more than $1 a kilo. Because those are the prices that are established since forever. So that's what we're going to do. And you know, you can't lose Lipton because Lipton's the biggest buyer, so they dictate the price. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then meanwhile, you have people drinking that shit, thinking that they're doing something great for the world. It's like a travesty. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't even know that. That is a travesty. That's horrible.
Yeah. There's a reason. There's a reason that it's so cheap, and there's a reason that it doesn't look like leaves in there. It's like the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the bottom is what they send to America, because it's a bunch of people that don't know shit about tea that just drink tea to posture, you know? Right. So like that's like a big part of our mission is, like, you know, real tea changes culture. Like, when real tea was introduced to Paris, there was an intellectual revolution. You know, when real tea is introduced, there's juicy shit that goes down.
That was the Enlightenment.
Well, it was like, it started in the 1600s, you know?
Yeah.
So it happens to coincide, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's super interesting. I didn't even connect that before. When you said that before, that is super interesting.
And to kind of loop back and finish the question though, like, going back to how once COVID hit, dude, we had 300 accounts and we were about to launch with Virgin Cruise Lines.
Wow.
And then it was just like from one day to the next, just like on a day that we used to receive 40 orders, I would go into the office and open the orders email and just like not one order, you know.
Oof. That's rough.
We lost 85% of our revenue.
Aish. Oof.
You know.
And now
So
things
it
are
was
bouncing back, I'm guessing. Now,
well,
around
but
now.
yeah, but the good thing is that like it forced a more intentional pivot and a more intentional analysis of like, what do we want the identity of JoJo Tea to be? You know, do we want it to be sachets of good tea in restaurants? Like, well, the original vision of the company is to see a new American tea culture. And like slightly upping the grade of tea bags in restaurants isn't going to establish a new American tea culture, you know? Getting people to play with loose leaf tea at home and start increasing the ceiling of the quality that they're willing to play with, that's what's going to change the American tea culture, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So now I'm more in the process of trying to figure out, you know, I'm working like I'm segmenting the brand into different segments so that we have like the Amazon line, the restaurant line, the at home line, the tea house line, and then like the reserve luxury top grade, you know? And I'm working with a branding agency to kind of like delineate the differences in that, along with like color schemes and packagings and look and feel. Then I'm also like, I'm trying to put together more like video content, more kind of interview style stuff with different creatives, which I'm going to be contacting you about in the future as we roll this out. Because what I want to do is also do like tea infused conversations where we explore the concept of creativity. What is creativity in the first place? You know what I mean? Because in Chinese philosophy, the concept of heaven and the concept of creativity are very much tied together. Like heaven in Chinese philosophy isn't a place that you go after you die and see your family. Heaven in Chinese philosophy is the place where thoughts come from.
The origin of everything, so to speak.
The creative force itself, the seed of the creative force.
The ether.
That's heaven, according to Chinese philosophy. You know what I'm saying?
I dig it.
So like, yeah, right? It's like, so like, and tea is like a bridge, you know? So it's like, I think that like drinking tea inherently lends itself to conversations about creativity, to explorations about creativity. And I think that it would be a lot of fun to do like more intentional conversations about creativity and the creative process using tea as the lubricant. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Count me in, so man. I'm down.
Word, man. That's something that I'm working on. We're also working on making more like product specific videos for YouTube, so that and like to live on the website, so that it's really clear what differentiates these teas. You know, if somebody can't come into the tea room, and then how can I make it so that they can still see the tea, see it brewing, see the whole leaves, and have as close to the experience of the tea room as possible? Because the tea room only has 4 seats. So I can't build a business like that, you know? Yeah. I need to like find ways to communicate that experience into people's living rooms so that they can have like the depth, even if it's not as deep as it would be in the tea room with me. It kind of can still shine a light at how deep the tea experience can be, you know? So I've been working on that for a while. And to go back to what you were asking, now the restaurants are opening more, bars are opening more, Virgin Cruise Lines is getting ready to launch. So the wholesale business is kicking back into full swing. You know, we're selling more tea to the wholesale accounts now than we did in summer of 2019, which is kind of a miracle to me. It's crazy.
It's awesome.
But then, you know, we're also like, which is great because it gives us enough revenue that we can like, that every decision that we make on the website and on the content creation front isn't like a make or break decision. You know, right. We can like try stuff and iterate, see what works, and then refine and so forth. So it's an exciting time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that is, man. I have an incredible videographer for you if you're looking for somebody who can really tell a story. His name's Quincy Perkins. I'll shout him out.
Okay.
But I'll link you guys up. He did a property video for me recently, and just very artistic. I think he'd be able to really capture like what you're talking about with the product videos. I think he'd be a good
That'd be
candidate
great.
for that, because it's so important to have, so many brands in real estate is so guilty of this, just doing like the bare minimum essentially, and just pressing record. And, it's better than not pressing record, but,
Right.
if you're any type of serious brand and you're trying to come off as, like you were mentioning, having those different segmented branches of the business, from the sort of consumer grade all the way up to the fine luxury and all of that, you have to come across as super convincing and super legit,
Well, I think that it's like you have to come across as appropriate. You know what I'm saying? The luxury, like I'm working with a branding agency called Lemon Yellow. And they gave me this note that I thought was fascinating. I've been thinking about it so much. It's like somebody who buys a commodity grade good buys it for a reason. They want X and they don't care about the quality. They just want X, right? Somebody who buys a premium good, they do it for a reason, a logical reason. They really like X, so therefore they want to buy a higher grade of X that is better for logical reasons. The luxury grade it's not logical. The luxury grade is cultural and emotional. Because at the end of the day, nobody needs to drink a tea from 500-year-old trees that's been aged for 40 years and that a teapot costs $150 or $600. Nobody needs to drink that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So then why do they? Right? Nobody needs to drink a 25-year aged Macallan whiskey for $300 an ounce. Nobody needs it. But they choose to somewhat regularly. So like the way to communicate to the person that's looking for that cultural luxury experience is by definition completely different than the way to communicate with the person who's looking for a premium expression of something that they want. And then both of those are very different than the person who just wants X, so just fucking give me X. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
Yeah. So like with videography and with like the look and feel of the products and so forth, I think that the more that we can understand that, the more we can speak to that demographic's needs, the higher the chances of success in each of those segments,
That's awesome, man. Very well said. This has been a lot of fun, man. I love talking to you about tea and just in general. I'd love to come to the tasting room sometime soon and kick back some glasses of tea.
Of course, bro. We're on 76 in Biscayne, man. I'd love to have you over, man. And I appreciate you and what you do a lot, man. I appreciate the way that you're kind of like the way that you're pushing these conversations about. I was really impressed with like the introduction. Like it's like you knew so much more about JoJo Tea than I would have expected. And I really love the way that you're like getting stories out and encouraging entrepreneurial thought. Capitalism can be fucking miserable, or capitalism can help us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like
it's a double-edged sword.
You're exactly right. It's a double-edged sword. So the sooner we recognize it as a double-edged sword and treat it appropriately, the higher the chances that we're not gonna, fuck shit up and turn around 20 years later wondering how we fucked up so bad. We're aware that it's a double-edged sword from day one.
I appreciate those words, and it's as far as capitalism. One thing that I always say is people don't really realize that we don't have a true capitalist system. We have a corporatist and crony capitalist system. And therefore, everybody running around talking, bashing capitalism. Well, you're bashing something that doesn't even exist. It's like me bashing the tooth fairy. It's like,
hey, well, no, but you know what's wild is you can say the same thing for communism. Like, I've been to China. They're capitalist as fuck.
Of course.
Like to pretend that China is purely communist or that America is purely capitalist with no socialism at all,
right,
is silly. And like this idea that we have to pick one or the other, instead of being true to the fact that we live in 2021 and there are socialist elements that need to happen, and free market elements that need to happen in order to maximize the fruit, you know?
Yeah.
It's like we're pretending that it's 1959. You know what I mean?
Just like with, if I could make a tea analogy, you know, sometimes you may need to take a little bit of oolong, you know, or sometimes you may need to take a little bit of the pu'er or a green tea, depending on the situation.
Of
We
course.
can pick and choose the good things, you know, from each of these teas, each of these systems, and implement them into a greater understanding of the art form of tea, of economics, of living, of society. So
what differentiates a true tea master is somebody that knows how to pick those for the appropriate situation. Not somebody who's just like, I love tea. What's your favorite tea? Green tea. I drink green tea every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I only drink this green tea, Kirkland's green tea from Costco. And yeah, I'm a real tea head. I know I love tea. It's like, all right.
Yeah. Can't deny Kirkland's signature, bro, you know?
Those guys are badasses, man. They're on their shit. It's fucking crazy what they do.
I'll sort of end it on a fun question here that I've started to ask, that I like to ask people, is if you could snap your fingers and have everyone in the world instantly in that moment know one thing in their heart of hearts, what would that be?
It's like, like I have a lot of thoughts, you know. Part of me like feels like it's like it's hard to put into words conceptually, but I'm gonna try. I think that because this is a lesson that tea helps you learn. I think that like if there's one thing that I can snap my fingers and all people could learn, it would be like the effect of the breath on our emotional reality. You know, like anything that you're worried about, just take 3 deep breaths and notice how your worry has changed. You know what I mean? Like, because I feel like we have so many distractions around us, like, and like not even screens, right? Like before we even take into account the fact that we have iPhones and iPads and computers, if you just look around, you know, there's so many distractions, so many sounds, so much stimuli always, so much stimulation always, right? And like the rhythm, of those stimulations can be very fast. You know, if you're looking at TV, you're watching a basketball game, the ball goes zoom, 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 zoom in, and then a commercial, boom, 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 coffee, boom, boom, boom. Okay, and now it's a liquor commercial, boom, boom. Oh, everyone's having fun. Okay, now it's a life insurance commercial. Oh, did you know that you could die and one day? And then it's a fucking vaccine commercial, and then it's a Viagra, and then the ball is moving, blah, 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 blah. And like our thoughts are moving at that rhythm, and that rhythm is a very unnatural rhythm. But the rhythm of the breath is the rhythm of the universe. It's a natural rhythm.
Wow.
And like if we can really focus on that rhythm, it becomes impossible to get swept up in the rhythm of commercialism and the rhythm of stimuli and the rhythm of Facebook and the rhythm of Instagram and the rhythm of algorithms. You know what I mean? Like I think that like the whole tea mission is in service of people learning that. Because every time that you have a moment of peace, I hope every time that somebody has a moment of peace, I hope that they learn to value moments of peace a little bit more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that like, yeah, that's the mission. Like just breath and peace, a moment of peace. Any decision that you make coming from a centered breath is the chances of you regretting that decision are just so much less, you know?
Yeah. Heat water, make tea, drink it, and breathe. Mike Ortiz,
it's impossible.
everybody.
You can't do that without breathing. You can't do that without breathing.
Mike Ortiz, everybody, founder and CEO of JoJo Tea, Miami's own, very proud to say Miami's own JoJo Tea, because sooner or later, everyone in the world is going to know that name. And I know people all over the world already do. And it's been a pleasure, man. It's been an honor. I'm looking forward to sharing some tea in the tasting room soon. And thank you so much for your time. Is there anything that you wanted to plug? Any social media that you want people to follow?
We're Sip JoJo on Instagram. There's one very specific thing that I want to say is like there's a thing that we offer. It's like if you go to our website, you know, there's like 60 teas and it's very easy to be kind of overwhelmed. So if you want to get into tea, you're looking for a kind of a way to taste a bunch of different teas, there's something that we offer. It's called the JoJo Club. That I think that it's honestly like the best product that we offer. It's a seasonal subscription. It's 4 boxes a year. And each box is obsessively curated by me. Each box is basically the answer to the question of, if I could drink any tea for this season, what would I want to drink?
Cool.
So it's based on heat. It's based on the elements. It's based on, is this tea going to be more warming or more cooling? Is this tea going to be heavier or more light and refreshing? Is this going to be an aged tea or a fresh tea? Like all of that is going into it. And then every box comes with a detailed write-up of why did we pick these teas? What's going on with JoJo Tea this season? And so forth. Each box is $78. So it ends up being like 23 bucks a month. But you'll always have, you know, really good, legit, authentic tea, organic tea that's made by the traditions of tea. You know what I mean?
I love that. I think I'm going to need to subscribe for that. It sounds, I'm sold as fuck on that.
Good, bro. And Jake, I wanted to say, man, thanks for having me on. The honors and the pleasure on this side, brother. You know,
likewise.
Much love for you and what you're doing. And, you know, anything,
thank you.
We're here for you, bro. You know, anytime you're by the area, feel free to swing by and come have some tea.
Absolutely. Definitely. We'll definitely be linking up on that soon for sure. Absolutely. Right, so thanks again, man. And you can stick on for a second. Everybody else out there at Sip JoJo, SIPJOJO, or is it at Sip JoJo Tea? I can't remember.
No, it's Sip JoJo. Yeah.
At Sip JoJo. I had it right. So at Sip JoJo, go follow the man, go order the JoJo Club tea box subscription and all the tea that you need. And thank you for watching.
If you go to sipjojo.com and you put in the search bar JoJo Club, there's where it'll come up. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. My bad.
No, perfect. There you go. That's how you find it. So thank you guys for watching this episode of the Jake Fletcher Show. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to hit the like button, ring the notification bell if you're on YouTube, and subscribe to the channel. Sell smart, buy bold. Jake Fletcher Show. We're out. Peace.